Ladas Chachma Mussar, to help fools become wise men. That is Mishlei, B'siyata D'Shmaya. A pity the fool. That is it. We're going into a very important section here, where we're going to learn that Hashem made a Yetzer Hara, and the Torah says you need an antidote for the Yetzer Hara. Barasi Torah, the Barasi loy Torah tavlin. I made the Yetzer Hara, I made your evil inclination, but I made an antidote for the evil inclination. It's called the Torah. So as we're moving through Mishlei, we see that one of the most important features of Mishlei, to not become fools anymore, is to use the wisdom of Torah. Don't spend time with bad company, it's going to affect you. And they're going to try to cajole you and to try to bring you into things that are not good, and just say no to drugs. Be very aware that you will be influenced. Once you could become sensitive enough to keeping positive company, being around good people, positive people, uplifting people, loving people. So then we move into verse 20, which we're up to. Says Shlomo HaMelech, Chochmas b'chutz taroina. You're going to start hearing wisdom. Sing a song. You're going to go out into the world and you're going to hear God's voice. Barachoves titen koila. In the rechovot, in the streets, there's going to be a call. And the next verse says, Beroish ha'imiyos tikra. At the roish ha'imiyos, in the head of noisy places, tikra, you're going to hear a kriya of Torah. Ubepischei sha'arim, at the entrance of the gates, bo'ir amarena toimar. In the city, you will surely hear the speaking. So we see this interesting movement here. The simple level of this is that if you start being somebody who keeps good company and starts making intelligent choices, you're going to hear God talking to you. You're going to hear the messages of life. You're not walking around like an NPC anymore, or even an RNPC, a religious NPC. You're really trying to be first player. You're in the game. You're listening for the wisdom of God. You're trying to hear the messages. Once you are looking for the messages, you'll start hearing it. But I want to focus today on one of the great Kabbalists, the Alshich HaKodesh. And he says that there are 4 levels of hearing the wisdom of God. And these 4 levels of learning wisdom correspond to what we just talked about into these 2 verses. So the Alshich says the following. He says there's 4 ways to learn Torah. There's 4 ways to glean wisdom. Way number 1 is somebody who learns Torah just for the simple pshat. Simple meaning, simple, nothing wild, just Vayidaber. And spoke, Moshe. Okay, Moshe. Okay, I'm getting it. I'm getting the simple meaning of the words. That's level number 1. At least I'm in the game. Level number 2 is somebody who's learning the simple meaning, but he's starting to go more into it. You know what I'm saying? Like, he opens up like Rashi for the first time. You ever got that English art scroll Rashi the first time? You got your hands on that? You're like, whoa, Rashi? This is big. This is big. It's more than I realized. Even though Rashi says, Loi basi al lefarish pshuta shel mikra, I just came to tell you the simple pshat. But you're like, there's a lot more in Rashi than I realized. And he's starting to like get involved. You know what I'm saying? That's level number 2. Okay?
Torah plus Rashi.
Torah with Rashi. He's making moves now. Level number 3, says the Alshich HaKadosh, is somebody who's now getting so involved in learning that he's thinking about it yoimam v'layla mamish, day and night. His mind is like all the time with Torah. He's thinking about Torah. That's level number 3. So what's level number 4? Level number 4 is somebody that based on level number 3, that he's thinking, he's walking around the Torah, he's thinking about Torah, he's mamish, like the way the Rambam says, he's like meshuggah, like a person who's into a beautiful woman. And he can't stop thinking about this beautiful woman. I bet he was sleeping, just woke up. This beautiful woman that he's so attracted to and he can't get his mind off of her. That a person has that for Torah. He's so in love with the Torah. Once he has that level of love, so the Torah herself starts revealing wisdom to her or him. He enters the inner dimensions, the inner gates of Torah. So those are the 4 levels of Torah learning. There's the one who comes just to learn, comes to an essentials class, like, teach me about, Torah. Okay, let's go. Let's speak it out. There's a Torah that God gave at Har Sinai. Basic. And then something starts wakening up. Level number 2. I'm seeing the simple meaning, but there's more to this, and I'm going deeper into it. Level number 3, I cannot get my mind off the Torah. It's like day and night. And level number 4, somebody who's so into the beauty and the inner essence of Torah, the Torah will start opening herself up and sharing great wisdom to that person. So says the Al-Shech HaKodesh, this is an amazing thing. He says these 4 levels are hinted to in these verses in Mishlei. And this is after a person got away from the bad company that we discussed in the previous verses, and he's starting to now be able to hear the Chokhmah. So he goes through it in the following way. So he says, what does the first verse say? You can see it. Look at verse 20. Chokhmos ba'chutz. For the first guy, that the Chokhmah of Torah is chutz. What's chutz mean? Outside. For him, it's still something like, I want to go to a Torah shiur, to like a Torah class or something. And it's like, there's like this thing on the outside, and I'm like observing this like Torah. And I'm like, like one of these like, yeah, I'm listening, Rabbi, what you're saying, Yeah, my body language doesn't indicate anything. But I'm still chutz. So somebody that approaches the Torah that way, taroina, he'll start hearing like a little song, like a rina. He'll start hearing like this little song, like, even though he's all like, macho like, but he suddenly starts like warming up and he's hearing something. It's like calling, he's chutz, but it's like calling to him. Something is moving within him. So that's the first level. It's a distant, vague sound, but it's like, it's the song. It's like calling him back. What's the next level? Look at the verse. Barochoivos. What's rochoivos mean? In the row, but the word itself, rachav, what does rachav mean? It means to widen something. So the student who went from level number 1, who after being like this macho guy, and all of a sudden is like, wait a second, like these rabbis aren't totally crazy. Maybe for God they are, but like they seem to be making sense. And he starts hearing a little bit, and his own das is being marchiv. He's like, wait a second, Torah Rashi. He's like, wants a little bit more of this. It's rachav a little bit more. So then he gets not just taroina, not just this distant song. He gets what? Koila. He starts hearing a call. Now there's like a voice coming to him. He sees like titen koila. The Torah is giving forth its voice. It's like an audible voice. It's starting to talk to me. He's feeling like, I want to forsake bad things and go to goodness. I want to return. I want to be better. I want to fix my life. But then comes the third level. This takes us into verse 21. Roish hoimiyos. Now what's roish hoimiyos? Roish hoimiyos means in the head, it's loud. What is the word hamoin? Like hoimiyos? Hamoin means to make noise. And hamoin is the same word for a lot of people, like the hamoin am. Because whenever you have a lot of people, there's a lot of noise. That's why who was Avram Avinu? He was known as the Av Hamoin Goyim, the father of many nations, of the multitudes, the father of a multitude of nations. Avram Avinu would gather people, tens and tens of thousands, and teach them about the one God. So let's go to this next level. Somebody who's beroish hoymiyos, constantly now for him, it's not enough that he's just interested a little bit. It's like occupying. His head is occupied with Torah learning. He's speaking about Torah all the time. He's thinking about it. So there it's tikra. Then he gets a clear call from the Torah. The Torah addresses him, speaking to you. It's like more direct now. And there's even a greater inner conviction that he's feeling of deeper connection and a deeper feeling of I can't do anything, Hashem, that would go against your will. But what's the highest level? Look at the pasuk. What's the highest level? The Pischei She'orim. Once he enters the gates. What are the gates here? It's the gates of the secrets. Once he's really, really learning all day, and now he sees himself entering these gates, at that point, what does he get? Amoreya toimer. A sure, precise, and unmistakable sound directed at him. That's the level of Ruach HaKodesh. He's now hearing the Torah mamish talk to him in a significant way. What was the prerequisite to all of this? We had 10 verses. Be very careful with the company you keep. Once you're careful with your company, and that can include group chats, that could include all sorts of things. What is the influence that I'm putting around me? Once the person becomes clear with that, then he starts to hear the Torah speaking to him. And as we said, Shlomo HaMelech moves into a languaging that the Torah herself is speaking to us. And now it begins in full power. So it says, verse 22. How beautiful is the Alshech? Oh, I love the Alshech. Kadosh. So it says, verse 22. Admosai pesoyim te'ehavu pesi. Oy, how long, oh psoyim, simpletons, will you love folly? Will you love your foolish ways? Veleitzim lotzoin chamdu lahem, and the scoffers, that they just love scoffing. Uksilim, and the fools, yisneu das, that they hate consciousness. What do you think this means? Why would a fool love his foolishness and a scoffer love his scoffing? Don't you want to change? Why is a person in a bad situation not getting out of it? Yeah, Asher, we're going to say? You heard of Stockholm Syndrome? It's very sad. How could it be? How could it be? A person gets that comfortable in something so negative. There's such a thing of getting so comfortable in something so negative that ad mosai, until when? Ad mosai. When will you leave this? Now it's interesting, ad mosai is pointing out it's just a matter of time. But we really hope that a person's going to get over this. Ad mosai, just until when? Either it's going to happen through your free will, or Mashiach is going to come and you're going to get over this. Ad mosai. So here there's a very important principle here. Rabbeinu Yonah says something very, very strong. A person will get caught in a pattern and literally follow that pattern even to their detriment. Because that's all that they know. It's interesting that when Rashi says, how long will those that are swayed by people that are enticing them enjoy these seductions? Rashi seems to be pointing out that they're becoming seduced by these seductions, and the victim in a certain way is enjoying being victimized, which is so sad. Shlomo Melech is trying to bust people out from the darkest of places right now. People that are caught in all sorts of terrible things. Just get out. Get out. Is a person responsible for their actions? This is one of the most fundamental principles of free will. That we are responsible for our actions. Says the Gemerra in Eruvin, Kol hamispate beyitzrei noifel sham. Anybody who's seduced by his evil inclination will fall there. Gehinnom. Which means, we don't really speak about that too much, but it means that a person is responsible for their actions. If something happens, we understand that I'm responsible for my actions. One of the most major takeaways of Mishlei is grab a hold of yourself, soldier. You are responsible for your life. And we're going to see a lot of this as we move towards the end of this chapter. Grab a hold of your life. So Admosai. Admosai, how long? Now it's interesting, why does the Torah say Admosai, Mishlei? He could have said, why do you go after? And what are you doing? You like being victimized? You like falling into this pattern over and over? Is it helping you? Why does it say, until when? So the mefarshim say a very beautiful thing. It says, until when? Because it's really pointing out a certain timeline. Is it in the nature of a child to be immature? Yeah, children are immature, you know. My favorite onesie, you ever seen that one? You know what a onesie is? The 3 buttons on the bottom, babies wear. So my favorite one is, my wife saw it one time, she didn't buy it. I think it's a great one. Maybe we'll do a business venture together and make these. Excellent. It says, bald, unemployed, and still living at home. It's gold. That's gold. Now, why is that funny? Because the baby's bald, unemployed, and still living at home. But you don't expect anything else. When the guy's 20, 30, 40 years old, bald, unemployed, and still living at home, that's not so funny anymore.
You should sell the adult sizes.
You see what I'm saying? With the 3 buttons on the bottom. And the feetsies also. That's really sad then. Because what are we really pointing out? We're saying that you don't expect of a child. He's a child. But Admosai, until when? We're looking at this adult. We're looking at this Pesi. We're saying this Pesi is acting so foolish. And we're saying, why are you still acting like a child? You're a grown man. Until when will you keep acting this way, like a foolish person? You're grown up. Take hold of your life already. Admosai. Until when? Stark Mussar, Rabbi Mishlei. Admosai. The late sim lotzen chamdulahem, and scoffers, they love the mockery. They love this mockery. So with the same question of when are you still going to, what, you still say those same like terrible jokes? I don't know if anybody had an experience like this. But you know, everybody knows like in high school, so if you had a prom, I don't know if you did, maybe you went to religious places, that everyone's in the limousine, and they're like, you were going to be friends forever. You know what I'm saying? And then like a year later, like half the people you don't speak to anymore. 2 years later, 10% are left. Not because anything specific, but just because life has a way of going in different ways. That's a normal part of life. It's a normal part of life. It's important. That's a very mature thing to be aware of. And in fact, you being religious, you have an extra responsibility to send them a nice message, happy birthday, bro. Like, be that good friend that, still kept in touch a little bit to make positive impact. So I had an experience that you meet people years later. And I like to keep, up with some friends and just, but years later, be hanging out with some old buddies. And they're saying the same jokes and the same stuff and the same, not quite yeshiva standard languaging. And nothing really has changed, maybe a little bit more money in their bank account, maybe married, maybe not. And getting like 30s, 40s. And you think like, Leitzim, lotzim, chamdalahem. Until when? How long are you going to go on like this? Just go through the same stuff. Put on the game. No, but it's a new game. It's like a new season of football. It's the same thing. Ein chadash tachas hashemesh. Running around, short pants, putting a piece of chazer through a couple poles. No, but it's like new. How? It's a new guy. He jumps higher than the previous one. How much? 2 centimeters. Whoa. That's next level. It's the same thing. Until when? Until when? Until when? And then the final category, that's the lates. Uksilim yisnu das. And the fools are the ones that don't like knowledge. We learned about all of these people in the beginning of the Sefer. The fools are the ones that don't like knowledge. We're going to see more on the Vilna Gaon and the Malbim between these 3 levels, because we see the 3 people showing up right here. We see the Pesi, the Lates, and the Ksil. These 3 people that Mishlei is trying to pull us away from. And Shlomo Melech is asking them, Uksilim yisnu das, the fools, why do you hate knowledge? So one pshat, they hate knowledge because if they learn more, they're going to have to give up all of the nacho, loaded cheese, treif, beef situation. Yeah, but like eternal life, like you sure? Don't get me started with that. It's going to make problems. I go to this Oyster Boy restaurant, and that's what I do. I've been doing it for 30 years. Why do you reject consciousness so much? It's trying to pull you out. Rav Hirsch says that Ksilim is a person that's like a very egotistical fool. And I'll leave you with this for a moment, is that Ksil, the word for Ksil, means a fool. It's interesting that Kesel, which is the same letter as a Chaf, a Samach, and a Lamed, mean to have trust or security. Like the Pasuk says, Ki Hashem yeh kislecha, Hashem will be your security. So what is the connection between a fool and security? It says that you should have security, Kesel, in God. And one suggestion is that the fool thinks that his security comes from him. What I know and what I do, and my money, and my car, my front lawn, you see how nice that's mowed? And my stuff, and my security is in me. And we're going to learn a lot about where your true security is in. Betach b'Hashem. Chesed Yisov Avenu. Anybody who has betochen in Hashem will have tremendous kindness surround them. And they will be zoicha mamish to go from fools to being wise men. Bezrat Hashem, guided by the wisest of all men, Shlomo HaMelech, and they will be zoicha mamish to Mashiach Tzidkeinu b'mihira v'yamin. Amen v'amen. Have a wonderful day, Rabbi Isai Kol Tuv. To be continued tomorrow.